Israel has expanded its bombardment of Lebanon, striking new areas as it targets members of both Hezbollah and Hamas. While Hezbollah has kept up its attacks on northern Israel, saying it's fired rockets at an airbase near the city of Haifa. In southern Lebanon, the Israel Defense Forces say they hit a Hezbollah command center overnight, located in a mosque adjacent to the Salah Ghandour Hospital. For the first time in this conflict, Israel has hit Tripoli in northern Lebanon, reportedly killing an official from Hamas's military wing, his wife and 2 young daughters, in a drone strike. And Israel has continued to strike the Lebanese capital here, Beirut. Its military issued warnings for residents in 3 southern suburbs near the airport to evacuate buildings around Hezbollah facilities. Alex Thomson reports on the day's events.
The Gaza strategy in Lebanon. From air and sea, Beirut pounded again overnight. By day, civilian jets still fly in and out against the bombing of the city's southern suburbs. Israel talks about pinpoint strikes. The Lebanese Health Ministry says more than 2,000 people have been killed so far across the country, including 127 children, 261 women. 4 major hospitals and 32 medical centres in Beirut and across the country completely out of service now due to Israeli strikes. Israel claims Hezbollah fighters were using them for positions. Overnight, Israel claimed to have killed a Hamas commander, Said Attallah, his wife and 2 daughters in the coastal city of Tripoli in northern Lebanon. Defiance against Israel on the ground.
We say that this resistance will continue. This is the path for martyrs. This is an enemy who commits criminal acts against our people.
His death independently confirmed this afternoon. And then, of course, the funeral. The full guard of honour, along with the 2 children. All this as Hezbollah fired rockets towards the northern Israeli port of Haifa. Also in northern Israel, wildfires started by incoming Hezbollah fire. Global diplomacy apparently incapable of stopping Iran and Israel's march towards the war neither wants. Iran's foreign minister in Syria today after Lebanon yesterday, touring countries on the receiving end of Israeli missiles. His own braced now for Israel's response to this week's salvo of Iranian ballistic missiles. Both sides ban independent media from the fighting zone, but all the while on the ground, Israel's, quote, limited incursion looks ever more like unlimited invasion in scope and scale. Not only the Lebanese getting out, another British evacuation flight, the last, scheduled to leave Beirut tomorrow, along with a host of other countries doing this in recent days, all remaining foreigners advised to contact their embassies.
And Alex joins us live now from Jerusalem. Alex, it's being reported that the Israeli military is preparing its attack on Iran, but it's a question of what and when.
Well, indeed it is. It's been reported, but nothing completely firm on that. Overnight, Joe Biden, the US president, again warned Israel against the high numbers of civilian casualties. Clearly, the White House consider those unacceptably high, not just in Gaza, but now, of course, in Lebanon as well. And over the last few days, there's not exactly been a war of words, but cool exchanges between the White House and the Israelis. A couple of days ago, Joe Biden pretty much telling Israel not to attack Iranian oil installations in reprisals for that Iranian missile attack this week into Israel. No response from Israel on that. Overnight, he said, well, if I was Israel, I wouldn't attack oil installations either. Again, nothing, no promises from Israel on that. It is considered imminent. We watch and we wait.
Well, here with me now is our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Secunda Kamani, who has just returned to Beirut from southern Lebanon.
Well, Chris, we've been hearing today further strikes, yet further strikes again in Beirut, again concentrated in the south of the city. It seems that Israel is deliberately trying to prevent rescue workers reaching the site where they targeted Hashim Safieddine, the man tipped to be Hezbollah's new leader. Still no official confirmation as to whether or not he was killed, but reports suggest that he has been out of contact with the rest of Hezbollah ever since those very powerful strikes on Thursday night. Now, as you say, we drove up from the southern city of Tyre earlier today, passing by towns and villages that Israel has ordered to evacuate. Certainly, they all looked very empty to us, and that's why there's such mounting concern about the displacement crisis here.
And what's going on the border itself?
Well, a little hard to tell. The Israeli military say that they've killed 400 Hezbollah operatives since their ground incursion began. Hezbollah, for their part, say they've resisted once again an Israeli incursion attempt around the village of Edessa. Certainly, we're not seeing Israeli forces sweep through southern Lebanon. Is that because they're concentrating their efforts just right on the border? Is it because they're encountering more pushback from Hezbollah than they anticipated? The Israeli military and military officials have been telling reporters in Israel that they want to try and wrap up the operation as soon as possible, potentially even within a number of weeks. One Western official I was speaking to today, though, expressing fears that we're just at the start of an open-ended conflict.
Thanks, Sikander. Well, in the last few minutes, the Israeli military spokesperson hasn't shed any light on when there will be strikes, saying their response to Iran will come at a time Israel decides best. Well, joining me live now from Tel Aviv is Miri Eisen, who's a retired colonel in the Israel Defense Forces. She worked with Prime Minister Ehud Olmert during the last Lebanon war in 2006 and is now a fellow at the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism. From the Israeli point of view, how is the invasion of southern Lebanon going? And does it seem credible to you that it could all be wrapped up within a matter of weeks?
It's funny how when I listen to the way you describe it as the invasion and then as it's going to go on, and Israel from the beginning had very specific targets in going into the small area of southern Lebanon that they chose to go in. And that was to both uncover, destroy, expose the Radwan forces, cache of weapons that are right on the other side of the border. The IDF spokesperson right now, part of what he put out is some of those tunnels that lead directly from Lebanese territory into Israel. They were waiting to do an October 7 type attack. That's what the IDF forces are trying to destroy.
Right, and so do you think it could be done in a matter of weeks?
Absolutely. I also think it's something where you go in and you go out, and that when we put the Hezbollah statements and what Hezbollah says on the same legitimacy level as what the IDF say at the end, with all of our flaws, and we have many, we are a Western democracy, and when we send out statements, certainly when it comes into what's going on, it's our soldiers who are fighting, it's our Israelis who are not inside their towns and villages, and we have been very clear on what's going on there. Hezbollah has attacked us every single day since October 8th. They joined in then. The Radwan forces are deployed in the south of Lebanon, and they have way more strength than what the Nukhba forces that did the horrific attack of October 7th ever had. So I look at what the IDF is doing. I most definitely see the locality of what they're doing. You come stand on the border. It's a kilometer from the border, a kilometer and a half. There are attacks further north because Hezbollah fighters are both trying to go north and they're trying to reinforce their own forces. It's on the double way, and that would be, to me, part of why Israel is telling villagers to go north. It's about saving their lives. I have nothing good to say about war in general, but to try to help uninvolved civilians save their lives.
Now, let's turn to the impending attack on Iran. Obviously, there are many things being said by Western leaders about what Israel should or shouldn't attack. Joe Biden sort of suggesting it shouldn't be nuclear facilities, it shouldn't be oil installations. Donald Trump saying take out the nuclear installations first. I mean, how are these sorts of sentiments received in Israel? What do people in Israel want?
So we're on a Saturday night. We're at the end of a long Jewish holiday. It's our New Year. We've all been in the Jewish holiday from Wednesday evening, and this is after the Tuesday night attack direct from Iran. So we're sitting here in that sense, looking around and saying, we are in a multi-front war, but we've been there, sir, for many, many months, almost from October 7th. The Yemen Houthis joined in. The Iraqi Shiites have fired at us. The Shiites in Syria, let alone Hezbollah from day one, Hamas, and of course, Iran. So when we talk about the response, it's understanding that we are in a multi-front war, but the one that's behind all of the weaponry, the UAVs, the suicide drones, the ICBMs, the cruise missiles, all of those come from the Islamic regime of Iran. So I think we all expect an attack. We don't say not. The Islamic regime of Iran, Khamenei, this Friday stood and both praised the October 7th attack of Hamas. And when we talk about the different, why they're all in it together, what they all, I want to say, have in common, to me it's such a horrible thing, have in common is that they want to destroy, annihilate the state of Israel, and they physically are trying to do so. So I do expect a response, Israelis do expect a response, but I have no idea what that would be.
Marie Eisman, thank you very much. Well, earlier I spoke to the Shadow Security Minister Tom Tugendhat in the UK, one of the four remaining Conservative leadership contenders who worked here in Beirut for a while before joining the army and serving in both Afghanistan and Iraq. I asked him, with Israel warning that its counterattack on Iran is imminent, what should Britain's message to Israel be?
Well, look, we need to be offering leadership in the region, and that's why we need to be asking British citizens to leave as soon as possible and offering leadership in the region to make sure that Israel's response is proportionate and targeted.
What does proportionate and targeted mean? Does that mean avoiding the nuclear sites, avoiding the oil installations?
Well, what it means is making sure that they're targeting those areas that enable Iran to conduct this violent aggression against Israel and actually against other countries in the region. I mean, let's not forget that Iran hasn't just brought or tried to bring death to Israel. They have actually, through Lebanese Hezbollah, through their proxies in Bashar al-Assad's government in Syria and their proxies in Iraq, they have murdered quite literally hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of Sunni Muslims across the region.
So it is in British interest that this war does not grow and become a full-scale regional conflict?
That's absolutely right. It is in our interest to make sure that this is as controlled, as proportionate as possible. But let's be clear, the Israeli government has the right to protect its citizens. The Jordanian government has the right to protect its citizens. And others have the right to take action against these non-state actors. Look, the Lebanese armed forces moved quickly in the last few days to disarm and expel Lebanese Hezbollah from various areas, including areas like the airport, where they have formerly had control.
Of course, all of this goes back to Gaza. Should Britain be more vocal in expressing its concern over alleged war crimes in Gaza?
Britain should be doing everything that we can to protect and support the Palestinian people, and one of the things that we need to be doing is pushing for the two-state solution. Look, all of this relies on the respect for, of course, the Israeli community, but also the Palestinian community. But what Hamas did in Gaza was utterly criminal. It was utterly vile, and I don't just mean on October the 7th, a year ago, almost a year ago today, but actually what they did over the months and years before that. Hamas murdered many Palestinians to take control of Gaza.
Just finally, I mean, as you know, as these wars grow and go on, there is a tendency among a lot of people back home to look away and to say, look, this is the Middle East, it's the Middle East doing what the Middle East does. What is your message to people at home about why this matters to them?
Well, look, Krishnan, I started my career as a journalist in Beirut. I was a journalist there from 97 to 99, and I was covering various elements of the wars in the south of Lebanon. And one of the things that struck me then and still strikes me today is that it's not foreign. It's not that far away. The reality is that the energy price spikes that happen when there's conflict in the Middle East affect us at home. And when we see rises in non-state actors like Lebanese Hezbollah, we see very often the threat of terrorism in the United Kingdom increase. And I can tell you as Security Minister that we were extremely conscious of the cooperation that we needed with our partners in the Middle East in order to keep the British people safe. So I'm afraid we may wish it away, but the reality is that we are fundamentally connected, and we need to be leading in the conversations, and the security conversations in particular, to keep ourselves safe. And that's exactly what the UK's position should be, because we should be standing with our allies and stopping these terror groups from getting any more oxygen or power or support from vile dictatorships like the Iranian regime that they've had for 40 years.
Tom Tugendhat, thank you very much.
Thank you.